Yous, and welcome to Book 101. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today, I have my special guest. He's the author of the Scribes series, no other than Mr. Dylan West.
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for having me again.
Oh, welcome back, Mr. Dylan. I miss you, man. And where have you been?
Well, you say you miss me. I kind of miss me too. I've been so busy working on book 2 of the series called Scribes, Aflame that I feel like now that it finally released today, I can pause and take a break and
Yes.
actually think about what I've done.
You deserve a break, Mr. Dylan. So before we go on to your second book of your series, let's do the recap of your first book, Scribe's Descent.
Sounds good. So, Scribes Descent is book 1 of a 5-book series. So, Descent is about a planet that has never had an earthquake until one day it has a really big one. And so the military sends a team of explorers down a deep mine shaft to find the cause of the quake. And when those explorers get down there, of course, they find a whole lot more than that. Now, in book 1, those explorers, whose names are Mallory, Rain, and Boxer, Mallory really being the protagonist, they get about halfway down this mine shaft. They reach a city and I'm trying to think of how to share this without getting into too many spoilers, right?
Yes.
They start to realize they're more than just young explorers. Now they are the Scribes of Legend, hence the title of the series. And so where Scribes of Flame picks up is that they need to go the rest of the way down to the bottom of this mine shaft. And in fact, I've got my brand new author copy that came in the mail yesterday, and I've got the back description facing me. Would you like me to read it to you?
Yes, definitely. I'm so excited.
Awesome. This will definitely say it best. Okay, so here's the description for Scribes of Flame. This one's book 2. Once the water runs out, millions trapped in a mine will die, unless civil war kills them first. Mallory Land vows to save them all. She plans an escape to the surface while falling in love with a prince who teaches her to fight. But as an army of traitors besieges the capital, she hides the royal family in tunnels below the palace. Problem is, food is running out, and the tunnels swarm with monsters invincible to all but Mallory's weapon, powered by alien nanotech. In desperation, she calls to the voice of one she can't see. He's guided her out of danger before, but now he keeps silent while enemies close in. Mallory seeks answers at the bottom of the mine, where others cry for rescue from a volcanic hellscape. Among the flames and toxic gases, something else awaits her. Something from another universe with designs to dominate this one. And it needs to steal a part of Mallory's mind to do it. Scribes of Flame delivers more of the hard sci-fi, futuristic fantasy, and immersive world building readers have come to love in Scribes Descent, book 2 of the Scribe series.
Wow. Interesting, Mr. Dylan, and congratulations for the second book of your series. So what behind the title of the second book, Scribes Aflame?
Yes, so like the description mentioned, the bottom of this great big mine is a volcanic hellscape. There is magma. It is like a hollowed out Pluton. So, which, for you geologists who actually know what that is, it's a little bit like a volcanic area, but deep underground.
Okay, sounds interesting. How did you crafted those ideas?
Oh gosh, man, I had started drafting Scribes of Flame about 10 years ago.
10 years
Actually,
ago.
yeah.
Oh,
And then after I did a couple drafts of it, then I went back to start polishing book one, Scribe's Descent. And then at some point, I took a break from that and went into and did a draft of Scribes Emerge, which was book three. And then I did the first draft of Scribes Beyond, which is book four. And then I finished the drafting the whole series, book five, with Scribes Within. And then I went back to maybe do like another draft of Scribes of Flame. Then I went back to polish book one some more. So I kind of bouncing around between books for the last 12 years.
wow, interesting. So, Mr. Dylan, what are your timeline for producing this series?
Well, I have been thinking a lot about that. So this book took me a solid year to fully revise and launch. It would have come out in around May of this year had I not devoted a solid 3 or 4 months to releasing Emulsipation, right? So I've got to decide if I'm going to release book two of the Emulsipation series, which is a novella. It won't take, but about maybe 3 to 4 months again. Or if I'm just going to jump straight into book three. I haven't totally decided that yet. I'm going to take a couple weeks break from working on Scribes books just to go back to the video game. And for those of you guys in the audience who may not remember me, I built a video game for Scribes Descent even before I started writing the book series. And I didn't build the whole game. I built like a 15-minute demo. What I want to do now is go back to that demo and add a feature my players have been clamoring for, and that is to code the first boss to actually fight you. Because right now he just kind of stands there looking pretty. And when I go to all my sales events, people are like, "Oh, I want to fight this guy." Well, after the next couple of weeks, that should be possible. So I'm looking forward to that. And
Oh my
and that should
goodness.
only take a couple of weeks, and then I'll probably go back hard and heavy into Scribes Emerge, which is book three.
Wow. Again, congratulations. So, how did you connect Scribes Descent to Scribes Aflame?
Scribes of Flame picks up right where Scribes Descent left off, to the point where some of my early readers were saying, "Ooh, we've forgotten what's happened in book one. You really need to remind us." So during my final revisions, I had to go back and add a lot of reminders of what happened in Scribes Descent.
Mr. Dylan, can you describe to us or explain to us the logo of your book? On the Scribes Descent is, I think, the last part is a mountain, right?
That's
Under
right.
Scribes Aflame, there's a sword and human.
Yes, well, almost. That creature at the bottom is not human, although he has humanoid features. That would be one of the four faces of Lord Dromadon. And who is the villain of this book? Well, he's like a villain of the whole series, but he's very prominent in this book. So I
Okay.
don't want to tell you too much more about
Yes.
him because then we're really getting into spoiler territory.
Yes, definitely. How about the sword? What's the connection?
Sure. So people who've read book one will be familiar with the Sword of Cyros, that the scribes reclaimed it near the end of the book. And so now they're starting out this new book, with that sword in possession. And they're learning how to use it. And they're discovering that it's more than just a medieval tool. There's a lot of advanced nanotechnology embedded into it. And so
Okay.
that's where this book really starts to feel like both fantasy and science fiction.
So, Mr. Dylan, which chapter of Scribes Aflame did you enjoy the most?
Um, I think there's a few of them that I like in different ways. There is one chapter that really stands out to me, though, and it's an early chapter where Mallory and Prince Byron, who is Mallory's love interest. So for you romance lovers out there, book one didn't really lean too much into romance, but book two, oh yeah, there's quite a bit of it in there, but it's all very pure, very wholesome. You're not going to find anything spicy or graphic in here. All the same wholesomeness and clean content of book one is present here. But for those who like romance, you're going to like that part here. And there's a whole chapter where Mallory and Prince Byron, they build a remote controlled car together in the palace workshop. And that doesn't sound like a very romantic thing to do, but they turn it into one.
Definitely. So, Mr. Dylan, I observed that Scribes' Descent, the color of the book is black, and the Scribes Aflame is red. Is this signifies because of the fire of Scribes Aflame?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And, for those with a marketing head on their shoulders, it is always good to make the different books in a series visually distinct,
So let's talk about the main character of the Scribes Aflame.
Okay, that is still Mallory. But I'm going to tell you something has changed in this book, and that is, in Scribes' Descent, the only point of view character you ever got was Mallory Layan, right? In this book, you have 3 point of view characters. Although the other 2 point of view characters, their chapters are a lot shorter, and they only come every maybe 4 or 5 chapters. One of those point of view characters is Leah Arkenfeld. That's Mallory's best friend. You only got to see her through Mallory's eyes in book 1. But here in book 2, you actually get to see the research facility through Leah's eyes, as she is separated from Mallory now. Again, this is a little bit into book 1 material here, but in Scribes' Descent, Mallory gets separated from Leah when she goes down into the bio prison, and Leah does not. She's still up on the surface at the facility. And so now, in order for readers to remember who Leah is, because she becomes much more important in later books, we get point of view chapters from her perspective, and there's some interesting things that happen to her when she's away from Mallory, and I can't tell you what those are because those really would be a spoiler, but I think you'll enjoy them. The other point of view character is one of the villains, and his name is Mammoner Racine. He's the head of finance for the kingdom that Prince Byron is a prince over. And this is a political opponent of the royal family. So include, the king, the princess, the prince. And so by extension, he is also the opponent of Mallory, Rain, and Boxer, our 3 scribes. And so you get to see his very colorful perspective as the Civil War unfolds in this book, really as he masterminds it.
So, Mr. Dylan, if you compare Scribes Aflame to a book like Dune, is it the same idea?
Oh man, it's been a couple of years since I've read Dune. I have watched the remake, the new movie, a couple years ago. I would say that there are a lot of similarities. There's a lot of world building, a lot of linguistics, and a lot of combat. Actually, there is probably more combat in book 2 than there was in book 1. A lot of readers have said that they feel like there's even more action, which is good. But to answer your question for Dune, at least the first book, Dune, in that series, because I haven't read that whole series. I've only read the first 2 books of the Dune series. So comparing to the first book, yeah, there's a lot of similarities, for sure.
this book will be a good for a series or a good for a motion picture?
Well, I mean, as far as what video format, I would say this is better for a series, a TV series, because it would probably have to get compressed too much if it were made into a 2-hour film or even a 3-hour film. Especially when you go beyond just book one and start bringing into book two, you really need a TV series then.
Oh, Mr. Dylan, I love to watch this in a series.
Oh, me too. Oh, believe me, that would. Oh,
That'd
I'd
be
faint.
awesome. It's good for a series for me. It's not for a movie. Oh my goodness. So people, we are inviting you. Please do try Mr. Dylan Scribes series because it's one of a kind. From world building itself, it's something else. So how many days or month you wrote Scribes Aflame?
All right. So, like I mentioned before, I wrote the first couple drafts about a decade ago, and I probably spent about 3 to 6 months during that period. But then when I published Emulsipation actually, it was almost exactly a year ago, last September, I turned immediately to revising Scribes Aflame, and I have been solidly focused on that book ever since, a solid year. And by a solid year, I mean on the order of 3 to 8 hours a day working on this. And on weekends, sometimes longer, sometimes 12 hours. So, and I've gotten, I think it was over 150 critiques from about 50 different authors on scribophile.com. And I also got pretty good feedback from about 15 beta readers about a month ago. So it's gotten a lot of eyeballs on it already, and other than mine. It's got a lot of my eyeballs on it. But yeah, so all told, it's probably been pretty close to 2 years of work focused on just this book.
Okay, Mr. Dylan, how did you beat procrastinating in writing Scribes Aflame?
Okay, well, probably the biggest motivation is going to my sales events. Now that probably probably makes you think like, wait, what does that have to do with this? Well, I'll tell you. As I've been tabling up at local farmers markets and art shows and such, my fans who've been reading and loving Scribes' Descent have been clamoring, there's that word again, clamoring, Dylan, when is book 2 coming out? I have to know what happens next.
Okay.
So, and I'm like, oh, for a while I said, oh, May of 2023, it'll be out. You won't have to wait long. And then May came, and then I started saying, June. But it wasn't because I was procrastinating. It was because I kept finding more ways to improve the book. And I wanted to make sure that it was really, really ready before I put it out there. Based on my feedback from beta readers, almost all of them said that they love it just as much as Scribes' Descent. Some of them have told me they like it even more.
So I mean to say, you meet your expectation.
Yes, absolutely. And in some cases, I feel like it exceeded my expectations. Sometimes I go back to certain scenes and I'm like, whoa, did I actually write that? was that somebody else? That could have been me.
Is that me? So if you want to revise the book itself, which part of the book you want to revise?
That's really hard. Probably just little tiny polishes here and there that maybe I shortchanged a little at the last minute just because I made my fans wait from May all the way till September. But it would be minor things,
Can you give us an example?
Like SPAG stands for spelling, punctuation, and grammar. So it's the little proofreading, line editing kind of mechanics of, when you have a scene and there's characters talking, don't just have talking heads where it's like, he said, she said, he said, you know, over and over and over again, right? Going in and actually replacing some of the saids with action beats, where you have somebody running a hand through their hair, or, you know, crossing their arms, or doing something meaningful with an object in the scene, you know?
Yes, definitely, Mr. Dylan. But before we go on, well, I want to shout out to the people listening in Pakistan. I always on the top 25 on the Apple chart. Thank you, Pakistan, for supporting this podcast. In Punjab, I get 72% audience share. Islamabad at 9%. Azad Kashmir at 7%. Sindha at 6%. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, sorry if I didn't pronounce well, 4%. And last but not the least, Balochistan at 2%. Thank you, Pakistan, for supporting this podcast, because this podcast is created to empower writers all over the world like Mr. Dylan West. And plus one more, thank you, FateSpot, for being the number 7 on the best art book podcast that you must follow this 2023. Thank you, FateSpot, for including my podcast. So, Mr. Dylan, Scribes Aflame, what is the best highlight?
Ooh, I'm trying to think of how to answer that without spoiling things.
No spoiler.
there are some action sequences near the end that I think readers will be surprised by. I've had some, and there's a big transformation that happens to Mallory in the process. I'm talking about the climax. So, and I've gotten some really good feedback from beta readers that they really loved the way that came together at the end. So that, I would say, is probably my highlight.
Okay, sounds interesting. So, Scribes Aflame, what do you think missing?
Missing? What do you mean?
The flaws.
Oh, well, the last city, which takes up maybe the last quarter of the book, some readers have said that maybe I could have spent more time developing that location and actually slow the pace down. Some found that it was so much action that they needed a little bit more of a break. So actually, I went and added more content on my very last revision to address that. But the way that's really going to get addressed is in the beginning of book 3. Because the scribes once they've gotten to the bottom of the mine, they have to come back up, right? So they're going to come back through that lowest city, and they're going to spend more time there. So that's really all I should say, because anything else is going to...
So, Scribes Aflame, what is the best description?
Really more, if you loved Scribes' Descent, this is just more of that. And actually with probably almost double the action. Because Scribes' Descent had to introduce you to this universe and to this world and to these characters. So Scribes Aflame didn't have to spend so much time on those things. So you really get more of the action because of that. Geology, too, you got to see quite a bit of that in book 1 when Mallory first gets into the mine. And she's looking around, kind of checking out the rocks and the environment. But once they get down into the Pluton, the volcanic area, her inner geologist goes crazy, seeing all the magma and all of the obsidian and all these other types of stones that were not present higher up in the mine because it didn't have magma there.
Hey, sounds interesting. The world that you build, Mr. Dylan. So, let's talk about this coming book 3.
Okay.
How did you connect to Scribes Aflame and Scribes Descent?
Okay, so Scribes Descent got the scribes halfway down the bioprison. That's the name of the deep mine that they're in. Scribes Aflame, book 2, got them from that point all the way to the bottom. Scribes Emerge, which is book 3, will get the scribes started up the bioprison. I don't want to tell you how far they go, because that might be a spoiler, but they begin, well, like the title says, emerge, right? Coming out of this bioprison, not just with themselves, but with all of the people who've been trapped in there for 300 years.
So which one, if you're gonna choose, which is the best for you? Scribes Descent or Scribes Aflame?
You know, that's a little bit like asking a dad which of your kids is your favorite. You know, that's a little dirty there. Oh, I've actually been thinking about that lately. And I know this is going to sound like a cop-out, but there's things about both books that I do like over the other. Like, I do like the hard-hitting action in book 2. But I do like the newness of book 1. And there is probably a little bit more technology in book 1 because Mallory's still on the surface in her modern status quo, in her dad's workshop. She's up at the research facility, right? So I do like the futurism that's a little bit more present in book 1, which you lose a little bit of that in book 2, just because now most of that book is spent down in the mineshaft where there's a lower level of tech. That is mitigated with the point of view of Leah, who's still on the surface. So you get to see what's going on the surface there. So that would probably be my answer. A little bit more futurism in book 1, a lot more action in book 2.
Comparing your preparation of writing Scribe Descent to Scribe Aflame, which is more meticulous?
Definitely Scribe's Descent, because I spent almost 12 solid years getting that book ready. And for Scribes Aflame, I really only focused on it for about 2 years. So there might be a little more polish to Scribe's Descent. But that depends on who you ask, because I've gotten different responses from different people.
It depends on the reader, right?
Yep, depends on the reader.
So, Mr. Dylan, what is your message for those aspiring writers out there to want to publish their book?
Okay, well, for me, if you're anything like I was, where you could actually finish a draft, but you didn't really know what you were doing with the revision part of it, you would just change some words and ask yourself, is that better? I don't know. The best way to deal with that is to get feedback and to give feedback to other writers. You can do that in so many different ways, but I would not recommend chasing down friends and family. Yes, they're convenient because they're there. No, they're not generally going to be your best option because they're busy, they may not be writers or have that kind of mindset, and they're going to be biased toward you, right? So you want strangers or acquaintances who maybe aren't as biased to read your stuff. But how do you get people to read your stuff? That takes time, that takes effort. Join author critique exchange groups like Scribophile. That was the website I was talking about earlier. Join scribophile.com. There are, gosh, how many people are on there? Hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. I'm not sure at this point just how many members. But it's consistently delivered hundreds of critiques for all my books over the last 5 years. I can't say enough about that community. So definitely join scribophile.com. I think the fee is like $85 a year, and it's totally worth it. Every penny. I do it every year. That's $85 I never have to bat an eye at spending. The other thing is joining local writing groups in person with other authors in your area. You can probably find them on Facebook. So that's my big advice is don't do this alone. If you try to keep this a secret or you try to, muscle your way through your writing all by yourself, that is a pretty good way to fail. Unless you're one of those rare birds that you can, do everything yourself. But even then, it's better to do it with friends.
Yes, people, we are encouraging you to do your writing because probably you're one of the best in the making. Who knows? Who knows? You will be the next Dickens. Shakespeare. Come on, people. We're encouraging you. But, Mr. Dylan, I'm inviting you to listen to my other podcast, Food 101, our third season with Chef Alessandro, one of the best executive chef in one of the best restaurants in downtown Toronto. And listen to our latest episode. We talk about lasagna. People, lasagna, one of, let's say, trademark of Italian cuisine. So please do listen. Food 101. So, Mr. Dylan, what else you can say about Scribes of Flame?
The spiritual aspect that you got to see in Scribes' Descent turns up several notches in this one. That is not to say that you're going to get beat over the head with religion. My readers have told me still that it has that gracefulness about it that, for those who have ears to hear, they let them hear the message. And others who just want a good, fun read, it will be that for them for sure. But if you do have ears to listen for greater truths, eternal truths, stuff that comes from the Holy Bible, not directly because this is a different universe. And this universe is called the Book of Books. But if you do have that ear that's listening and a heart that's open for truth, I believe you're going to start to see it even stronger in Scribes of Flame, especially at the climax.
Wow, interesting indeed. So, Mr. Dylan, can you please invite our listeners to buy all your books?
Absolutely. So you can go to my website, which is dylanwestauthor.com. That is DYLANWEST, and then the word author, all of that in one word. So dylanwestauthor.com. I'm sure that Daniel will provide the links with the podcast.
Yes.
So if you go there, there's a couple things I would like you to do. One is to subscribe to the newsletter if you haven't already done so. So you leave your name and email, click the link that gets emailed to you to verify, yes, this is me, right? Because if you don't click that link, the subscription won't actually finalize. So once you're on my newsletter, you're going to get a welcome message from me introducing you to my books. But every month, once a month, you're going to get the geekiest science research tidbits that go into the making of my books. And these days, I've been adding some Easter eggs and some other fun little behind-the-scenes things that I think you'll find interesting. I've gotten a lot of good feedback from my subscribers saying that they that they don't read other people's newsletters, but they read mine.
That'd be awesome.
So that's one thing. Go to my website and sign up for the newsletter. The other thing is if you're brand new to my books, I encourage you to read the sample of Scribes' Descent. The first 4 chapters are posted there. So go read it for free. See if it's for you. If this is a book you feel you're getting engrossed in from that sample, then jump on in, buy book 1. And when you're done with that, buy book 2, which is out now. It feels so good to be able to say that. For so long, I was like, book 2's coming. Now I get to tell people it's here. So yeah, you can get both books on Amazon. And the links are on the sample pages. And if you just type in the title of the book into a Amazon search bar, you'll get it that way too, especially if you throw in my author name. So you can get them in Kindle format. You can get them in paperback. Now, Scribes' Descent, you can get in hardcover, but Scribes of Flame, that's coming. Probably later this week, maybe middle of next week, then the hardcover format will be available for book 2. And like before, Scribes Aflame is free for you to borrow if you're a Kindle Unlimited subscriber. Free is always good. I will ask you to leave a review. Now, for both books, either one, actually all three, because there's also Emulsipation, which is the TV show that the characters quote from in both books. So yes, that's right. If you loved all the nerdy little Emulsipation references that the characters made in book one, you're going to love it because it happens even more in book two. So you can get
Yes.
Emulsipation from Amazon also, at least the first episode of it, and review all three. That has a cartoonishly big impact on new writers like me. So if you do that, I will put your name into my video game as a collectible item.
Yes.
There's no other book that does that for you. You go review one of Stephen King's books, your name is not appearing anywhere. You
Yes.
review mine, it's not, your name isn't just going to be tucked away in the credits of the game. It'll be in the game itself for all players to find.
Yes. Let's support Mr. Dylan West.
Oh, and when you go to my website, try the demo. So this game I've been telling you about, I want you to go and actually try it. See if you like it. And there'll be a link provided for that too. And you don't have to download anything. It plays right in the web browser. But here's the thing. You do need a laptop or a desktop computer. You can't, mobile is not supported. So you need either a keyboard and mouse or a USB controller. And it's a 15-minute demo. So it's not the full game. That's coming. So what my plan long term is, when I'm done publishing all 5 books in the main Scribe series, I'll turn and focus completely on getting the game done and out on Steam.
In the future, either all your Scribes novel will be in audiobook?
Oh, absolutely. Once I have the few $1,000s necessary to produce them professionally, I'll do that. Yep.
Well, looking forward to that, Mr. Dylan. And people,
yeah.
let's support Mr. Dylan West, because if you support him, more books to come.
Video game too, which is pretty rare to get a book game combo, especially made by the same person.
Yes, a video game, people.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mr. Dylan, thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Daniel Lucas. Man, it's been awesome being back on your podcast.
Mr. Dylan, thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you.
Morning, people. See you soon.